Pokemon has had a lot of pretty big screw-ups the past little while, but none of them have hurt me as much as this one. Recently, Pokemon made a huge change to the way their competitive system works. Before, you would participate in local, regional, and international tournaments for either the TCG, VGC, or Pokemon Go. Each of these tournaments would give out varying amounts of championship points, depending on how you did, in hopes of accumulating enough points to qualify for the World Championship. This created a system where the more you compete, the better your chances, and the better you are, the less you had to compete. While it wasn't perfect, it created a system where anyone with enough passion for the game had a chance to qualify for the World Championships, whether you were someone who did this for a living, or just the average dude. However, this new system completely changes that. Instead of hitting a qualification threshold, it's now based on placement. Using the US and Canada region as an example, you would now need to be in the top 75 in almost all of North America to qualify for Worlds. Now at first glance, there shouldn't be anything inherently wrong with this. It is the World Championships after all. It should be competitive to qualify. But once you look at the inner workings of this system, you'll quickly realize that's not at all what this is promoting. You see, there are a lot of leftover rulings from the old system that don't really mesh well with the new one. Two in particular that I believe ruins any competitive factor of this system: the number of best placements, and the ability to participate in any tournament globally. Traditionally, there was a generous best finish limit for each kind of tournament. Only your best 6 finishes in locals, and best 6 finishes in regionals, would count toward your Worlds qualification. If you were a good player, chances were you didn't even need to go to 6 regionals to qualify. It's also important to note that there was no best finish cap for international tournaments, which are the biggest source of championship points. This ruling remains basically unchanged with the new system, meaning, to even have a fighting chance, you would need to participate in the absolute max amount of possible tournaments. This means that those with the funds to travel to all these tournaments have an enormous advantage over anyone else. Sorry little buddy, but your dream of going to the World Championships ain't happening because you didn't have enough money to travel to Sao Paulo, Brazil, London, England, and New Orleans, USA. And that's not even counting the means to travel to 6 different regionals spread out over the world, which would cost just as much, if not more, depending where you are. I don't think this is the kind of message that Pokemon wants to send to their player base. The second ruling that poses problems is the ability to participate in any tournament globally. Even before this change, this was a rule I always thought was strange. You see, different parts of the world had a different requirement of points needed to qualify for Worlds. Players from the US and Canada rating zone needed 500 championship points to qualify, while players in the Oceania rating zone, for example, only needed 300. Because any player could enter any major tournament, players from rating zones that needed less points to qualify could travel to other rating zones to grab more points. This only becomes more of a problem with the new system, because now you're not just fighting to accumulate points, you're competing directly with people in your rating zone for qualification spots. It doesn't make much sense that someone outside the local rating zone, who you aren't competing with for a world spot, can steal critical points that local players need just because they have the luxury to travel abroad. Conversely, it isn't fair to local players who can't afford to travel to every single event around the world, especially when major tournaments have a limited number of entrants. Even players that can afford it are going to have a nightmare making last-minute flight arrangements for a tournament they aren't guaranteed to be in. The most recent North American International Championship had huge attendance issues with countless competitors not even given the chance to compete. I can't imagine the soul-crushing feeling of watching your name fall out of a qualification spot because you couldn't afford or land a spot in the last tournament of the season. If it wasn't abundantly clear already, all this new system really does is make competitive Pokemon even more pay to win. The only ones now that can even think about qualifying for Worlds are players that have the luxury of traveling the world. If you still aren't convinced, let me show you just how much it would cost if you wanted to even have a chance at qualifying for Worlds with this new system. Let's break it down, shall we? Let's say Lil Ethan here wants to be the very best like no one ever was. He wants to compete in the video game championship, so he's gonna need a Switch and a copy of the most recent game, so he grabs Pokemon Scarlet. However, to compete, you're gonna need access to the best Pokemon available, a lot of which aren't available in Scarlet and Violet. After all, if Ethan is gonna embark on this huge road to Worlds, he's gonna want the best chance possible. So in order to legally obtain every VGC eligible Pokemon by himself, Ethan will also need a copy of Pokemon Violet, the Scarlet DLC, the Violet DLC, a copy of Pokemon Sword, a copy of Pokemon Shield, the DLC for Sword and Shield, and a copy of Legends Arceus. Our total so far, without even thinking about a tournament, is 700 USD, and that's before tax. Hopefully Ethan has some generous friends to lend him some of those more exclusive Pokemon. With all this in hand, Ethan gets to work, collecting all the Pokemon he needs, with the right natures, IVs, items, and moves, and assembles a competitive team he put together after extensively studying the ins and outs of competitive Pokemon. Ethan's now ready to plan out which tournaments he will attend. To give Ethan a fighting chance, he'll need to attend at least 8 local tournaments, 6 regional tournaments, and all 3 international tournaments. Just off entry fees alone, you're looking at around $10 for each local, $80 for each regional, and another $80 for each international tournament, for a whopping total of $800 just from entry fees. Unfortunately for Ethan, a lot of these tournaments are going to be abroad, so he's going to have to grab a round-trip flight and hotel accommodations for each one. Because this can vary depending where you're located, I'm going to make it easy and round each trip to $1,000. Ethan will have to travel to at least 6 different regionals, and most definitely to the 3 international tournaments, adding a whopping $9,000 to the cost, giving us a grand total of $10,500. The best part is, this is just to have a chance. There's absolutely no guarantee this will place you into a qualification spot. Competitive Pokemon, whether it be the TCG, VGC, or Go, was probably one of the most accessible competitions out there, where literally anybody could one day make it to the World Championships. I myself was thinking of going on a run this year to make it to Worlds, but with these new rules, it basically feels next to impossible, which is a feeling I'm probably not alone in. Pokemon has already sent out a tweet acknowledging everyone's complaints with the new system. Whether they end up changing anything, we'll just have to wait and see. But what do you guys think? Do you guys prefer the old system with the point threshold? Or the new system based on placements? Should they try to rework this new system? Or just go back to how they used to do it? I make sure to read every comment, so let me know what you guys think down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. It really helps your boy out. But anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Ciao, fellas.